Hi, this is Roy Samuelson. Welcome back to the ADNA Presents. Today I'm talking with Meg Ryan. And before we get into some of the background here, if you like this podcast, please remember to share it with friends. Please remember to subscribe, give us some ratings, and let's get this out there a little bit. Meg Ryan is an audio description writer with credits like The Substance, Snow White, a Minecraft movie, Primal, and Phineas and Ferb. Meg comes from Second City Comedy, and we get into what that background changes about audio description, how horror and comedy use the same math, and how to serve the story without stealing it, and what it really takes to write under tight deadlines. So if you've ever wondered why audio description is adaptation, not transcription, this one's for you. And all these podcasts are for Kevin. Join us on this 252nd episode of the ADNA Presents. Today, we're honored to have Meg Ryan. She's been writing audio description for Deluxe since 2022. Two of her credits were nominated for the American Council of the Blind's Audio Description People's Choice Award for Best Audio Description in a Feature Film, and that's for The Substance and Snow White. And some of her other full credits include Final Destination Bloodlines, a Minecraft movie, The Day the Earth Blew Up, Season 3 of Primal, and Season 5 of Phineas and Ferb. Oh my gosh, we have so much to talk about. And Meg comes to audio description with a background in comedy writing, originating at Second City, Chicago. She's a mother of two teenagers who absolutely detest what she makes them listen to with audio description on, but then they secretly brag to their friends about what she's working on, something cool. This is so exciting to connect with you, Meg. How we met was also fun. Maybe we keep that to ourselves. Who cares? Thank you for joining us. What do you love about audio description?
Oh, golly, what a question. I love the idea of sharing something I'm passionate about. I love television. I love comedy. I love movies. And I love the idea that I can expand that audience and help connect people to pop culture in a profound way.
That's so great. And I think about the connection with Second City, that there's such a stereotype about audio description being cold and calculated and visuals only. And there's like this tension between that immersive experience that our blind audiences deserve and this idea, air quotes, about what audio description should be. I'm curious, has there been any times, I'm not asking for details, but has there been an experience where your comedy has come into play within your writing of audio description?
I think just always being aware of the audience for any particular piece of work has helped inform what words I'm going to use, the tone I'm going to reach for, and also just the comedic perspective, the point of view of anything that I'm digesting there. And that helps a lot because it opens up, it leads you down, it gives you the right guardrails on what type of verbiage and lexicon you can use, but also just how much fun you can have with the audience. I guess the biggest example of that is The Substance. That was maybe the most challenging thing I've ever done, with the most straightforward and unabashed point of view possible and message. And it was both equal parts challenging because I had to tap into this kind of radical feminist propaganda, but then also very rewarding because creatively, I don't know that there's anything more rich than trying to articulate what was going on in that film.
There's a lot going on in that. I think about comedy in the sense of actors, and then we'll go to writing. I think about the comedic actors have such a ability to transition to drama because of the skill set of comedy. And if you agree with that, I'm wondering about the writing. Is there some parallels there? Like you're able to use, obviously there's some comedic moments in The Substance. It's a serious horror film in a lot of places, but also I found myself laughing uproariously at some of the more graphic scenes. So like how, this might be a more global question than audio description, but when it comes to comedy, is there this skill that can apply to other aspects of entertainment storytelling?
Just on a specific to comedy and horror sense, like horror and comedy kind of are just different versions of the same math, right? Like you punchlines and the moment where they're just very similar. The moment where the most stunning or frightening or startling thing happens, they're very similar. And so I guess that's an interesting thing to translate. I think it's maybe the mirror opposite of it. It's the upside down of comedy is horror. I've always struggled with more dramatic things, just articulating expressions, the long pregnant pauses in a piece of drama, it can be difficult not to verge into editorializing, to say what this person might be thinking, to infer it, but not force feed it to the audience. That's definitely been a challenge. But yeah, I don't know how to sum that up appropriately. I apologize.
That's great. Well, let me dance on that a little bit. Like the way you approach drama or the way you approach comedy or horror, that there is a thoughtfulness that you're sharing, that behind the way you're even describing it, there's a care. How you're describing audio description, okay? Just to get super meta. Thank you. There is that thoughtfulness and that care that you're bringing. And you started off answering the question about what you love about audio description with passion, that you genuinely do want to bring the best to this work. When you think about, what does that mean to you? Is, if I'm making an assumption here that you do want the best, what does that look like if you start a project?
Thank you for assuming that I'm the best. I guess it's just really dialing in to the message of the film and the message of any given scene. What is this trying to tell the audience? What is this even one moment trying to tell the audience? And how can I communicate that given the constraints that we naturally have in this piece? And sometimes you really do have to go, this is going to sound repetitive because there's 2 words for gun, and this movie is all like it's a John Wick film or something like that. There's just only so much you can say. I didn't describe John Wick, but just as an example. And then other times it really is sitting there after your first draft and going, okay, what else can I say besides crumple? How else would you describe this kind of downtrodden look? We can sell this person's being thoughtful and they're mulling something over. What else can I say besides staring into the middle distance? I don't want to, maybe you feel this way, like it's hard to listen to your own audio description after the fact. As a writer, it's just, nails on a chalkboard. I should have not used expansive so much in the same 2-minute span, or I haven't. Just these things stick out very much. So I guess it's, if I can get to a place where I feel what I've written is tolerable after hearing it, I feel like, okay, there's no jarring, screeching breaks for my audience, and I'm hoping there's no distractions from the story.
Love it. That not standing out. The spotlight isn't on, hey, look how great this writing is, but this writing is actually supporting what's happening on screen.
Absolutely. It's important that it's supplemental and enriches instead of tries to steal the show.
The irony, I'm thinking about you, if this was done in the 1980s, you would have this big thesaurus next to you that you were talking about the varying words of definitions instead of the repetitive thing. There's been a stereotype of furrowed brow that's been going around in audio description for 10 years. When you think about that kind of varying, I'm going to speculate that exercise of finding other ways to communicate what's happening visually by being more specific and playing around with different words, varying your word choice. That's got to have some spillover effects to other aspects of your work, maybe outside of audio description.
Yeah, absolutely. Outside of audio description, this job has made my action descriptions and my pilots and features so much better. You just know exactly you can imagine it perfectly. I'm great at it, not to brag or anything. I will say I was running into this problem where my colleagues were like, Meg, this is a Disney Plus thing for 10-year-olds. Don't use the phrase coquettishly. Say they giggle or grin or something. I catch myself. I'm more aware now that as a mom, I don't really dumb down my vocabulary with my kids, and I never have. But that doesn't mean that everybody feels the same way. I was working on a movie that had a lot to do with gems, and there's a phrase chatoyancy, which is when like a gleam of light hits these like refractive properties inside the stone. And they're like, you can't use chatoyancy. It doesn't matter that dictionaries exist. You have to actually, it goes into not stealing away from the plot, not having it, stick out. You want to be able to have people know exactly what you mean immediately. Conversely, when you're doing something for a little bit older of an audience or for a more skilled audience, and skilled is the wrong word, you can use big words and usually people don't mind.
And you had started off talking about audience sensitivity, not in the sense of sensitivity, I shouldn't say that, but keeping in mind the audience of words and tone and how that plays out. These are all considerations. I think there's a misunderstanding in audio description scripting that it's just closed captioning. You're just capturing and transcribing the visuals. And yet the pitch that I've been trying to make, even to some writers who are unaware of audio description, is that this is an adaptation. And I'm curious if that resonates with you.
100%. And I guess everybody who would possibly be listening to this knows the struggle of really trying to articulate what audio description is to a person who doesn't utilize it. So in some ways, you're almost defending the skill set you need to have in order to be good at this. Because yeah, you run into all the time like, oh, so like subtitles, like closed captioning, and it's no, because this is done in a cinematic way that it can be just a rock in a hard place. But it really is the turning a visual thing into a narrative podcast almost. It's an enhancement of the genre, not a bug, right?
Nicely said.
Yeah.
This is great. I think about the challenges that writers in audio description face. There's usually, through no fault of anyone, just the way the system is, that there's a time crunch, that things sometimes have to be happening super fast. How do you find yourself either accommodating that, or do you have to get into the zone? Do you like clear the desk of everything, or am I peeling back the curtain too much? This is more something for another conversation, not publicly.
No, this is actually something I think about a lot because I don't know how aware like the audience is necessarily of the workflow pipeline and the timeline and all of that. It's pretty short. And so you might have a movie that's 110 minutes long and you'll get 8 business days to work on it. And so you have to make peace with the fact it's important that this in its entirety exists. And I might not be able to get everything exactly right, but in a broader sense, this needs to be available to the public. And unfortunately, that doesn't mean it can be absolutely perfect every single time. And that's not to sound defeatist. It's just the reality.
What's an ideal world? This is probably my personality type coming out, thinking like in a dream scenario, you've got all the money and time in the world. What would you want to change in audio description?
That's also an interesting thing too, because sometimes I feel like the best writing that I've done has been when I've gotten some absurd assignment. You mentioned Primal. I had the first 5 episodes of the series Primal. It's an animated show. There's no dialogue whatsoever. I jumped into it having no background knowledge. It was just like, here's this highly lauded, very critically acclaimed animated series with its own world and fan base, and take it away. Nobody's expecting this. And so I get an 8-hour day to write the first episode. It's almost entirely audio description. But in that moment, you feel the pressure and you go, okay, I guess I just got to lock in and do it. And then you do it and it's great. And I guess maybe because you don't really have enough time to really get distracted or even like argue with yourself, you just are forced to do it. I don't know. It's odd. So I guess there is some value in not having this limitless time, right? There is some value in a deadline and the pressure. But I think, yeah, it's impossible to imagine a scenario where I'm given both exactly the right amount of time I think I need and have the exact right motivation. That's
Sure.
not really answering your question, but there's something to be said with the pressure.
I hear that, and thanks for sharing that. I think about that quote from Wynton Marsalis that's, you can't improvise off of nothing. And those constraints actually can add to creativity and innovation. We've covered a lot. Before I ask you how to follow you on socials or websites, is there anything that we haven't talked about yet that you'd love to share with our audience?
Well, I just think in general, I want to say thank you for being such an outspoken advocate and really sharing, what it is to be involved in this world of audio description. As I touched on up front, there is something really profound about being able to connect this, not just maybe, I don't want to say disregarded, but connect to this audience that like is just as passionate as we are about entertainment and movies and film, and make it accessible to them and help bridge this like important like pop culture gap that they need to there it is, that we need out there to just bring everybody into the party. And I think it's great what you're doing. And I've grown to be very proud of the work I do and the work my colleagues and I do and all of us out there.
That's great. Thank you, Meg. How about socials or websites, if you want to share?
Sure. I don't have any social media that's specific to me as an audio description writer, but if you'd like to follow me on Instagram, my handle is Big Dumb MILF. Roy, you're welcome to cut that out if you want.
No, it's staying. What do you post on? What's your posting? Like, what's your...
It's Instagram. But yeah, that's more or less it.
Okay, awesome. The whole podcast episode that you've been a part of here, I think really displayed the quality and brightness. You actually brought some chatoyancy to this very podcast.
I'm like, what a great callback. Yes.
I'm doing a dance. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and please share. I have not asked that in 250 some episodes. So let's see if that gets anything. And thank you
Yeah.
so much for being a part of this, Meg.
Yeah. Thank you, Roy.